Lake of the Ozarks Scout Reservation, the Sinquefield metalworking facility, part of our larger Sinquefield Invention campus here at beautiful Camp Haughton. This week we won't get to see too many cool shots of the sunset because it's rainy and overcast out, but that doesn't mean we can't have a lot of fun in the shop. As I stated before in the post, this week we're going to be making a flint and steel striker. This is a really basic, pretty easy project for beginner blacksmiths or anybody, but a really cool thing to have in your camping kit. As I stated before, important things are safety, gloves, ear and eye protection, and I like to wear an apron a lot, simply to keep sparks and stuff from hitting me. Because remember, for when you do this at home or you do this here at camp, safety is always going to be your biggest concern when it comes to blacksmithing or anything that deals with the Invention campus. So yeah, let's get started. This is what we're going to be working with right here. I know it doesn't look like much, but it's actually just a chunk of garage door spring. It's a high carbon steel that we're going to use for the striker itself. So let me get the forge back and running, and we'll get this heated up and we can start the process. The video this week won't be as long as the bladesmithing video. Bladesmithing takes a little longer than this, but once we make our flint and steel striker, I'll be headed over to one of the pavilions because it is still raining on the dirt ground, and I'm going to give you guys a demonstration of how to use your striker to create a fire with flint and steel. So I hope you all have a good time and enjoy. I'm going to get the forge going. Going to give that a minute to heat back up. I had it going for a little bit to preheat. It'll take just a minute, and then we'll toss this in and get to working. Be using real big tongs this week, pretty much just one set of these. These are 3/16 V-bit tongs. I don't know if you guys can see it. There's an actual V in there and there as well. That helps so you can better grip the metal. Because I stated before in the previous video, if you can't safely handle your metal, then you can't safely blacksmith. Okay? Now I'm going to be using this tool this week. It's a simple hook. What that does is because that piece is so small, I got to be able to kind of pull it to the edge of the forge once it's heated so I can grab it with the tongs. So that helps me just grab it. Now, as with working with blade steel, this stuff is kind of similar. You know, it's a high carbon steel. So the important thing to remember is, like with the blade steel, you can only hit this stuff when it's really hot. Because if you hit it when it's cold, you're going to create small stress fractures in this. And the way we quench this is with water. So it's very rapid cooling. It tightens up the crystalline structure of the metal, makes it really hard. That does have a tendency to make it a bit brittle, but if you have any of those little, microscopic hairline fractures in there and stuff, when you go to do your water quench, it's going to break. So like with the blade steel, or really any steel, you really only want to hit it when it's good and hot. Actually, instead of hammering this part, we got to just open this up a bit. It's real small steel, so it's going to be pretty easy to manipulate. There we go. Again, because I'm using small stuff, I'm just going to be using my small hammer that has one side rounded, one side flat. Because parts of this I need to kind of flatten out. striking surface, and the rest I need to expand a little bit outward. So I'll use the rounded part, and then I can clean everything up with the flat side again. First thing, I'm going to make these ends into nice even points. Notice I'm just rotating the metal back and forth 90 degrees. Give it a nice even taper. I don't want anything real sharp or pointy or anything like that. Just a little bit of point for some decoration when I go to do these little curls on the end. Now, I am using the 3-burner Majestic today. The amount of heat that produces isn't really necessary, but that's the nice thing about that forge is I can turn it down and it doesn't have to get crazy hot. I just am using it because it's close to the anvil I'm using, but there's nothing wrong with using the rest of the forges that we have in the shop. That's almost hot. After this next heat, I'll pan over. I want you guys to see the other forges we have there, designed by friends of ours, Eric Barch and Mike Glisson. Two awesome blacksmiths who came up with this design, and man, we've been using the 3 we have here for almost 5 years now, and they work absolutely fantastic. So those are our other forges. Those are the 2 that are the regular size. And you notice they have the 3 bricks in them. As I was stating in the other video, what's so cool about those forges, you can get them hot, and say you're working on a big axe or a piece that doesn't necessarily fit through the small opening. It's super cool because you can take those bricks out and slide larger pieces in. That's what makes them so versatile. And then we have our other one just behind the Majestic forge. Okay, I heated up the 2 ends, drew those out to a point. Now what I'm going to do is I need to be flattening the middle section of the striker a little bit. That's going to end up being the actual striking surface, the surface that hits the flint itself. So I need to flatten that out just a little bit so then I can bring my 2 ends up. Now the reason I'm doing that is not just for the aesthetics of the piece, but as well, by flattening that down, I'm creating more surface area that the flint can strike on. It just helps to get a lot better spark. You don't necessarily have to do it. I mean, literally, you could take one of these rings that we cut off the garage door spring, kind of flatten it out a little bit, heat treat it, and you got a striker. This project does not have to be very complicated at all to make a functional striker. But you know, like all art forms, it's not necessarily about functionality. You know, it's about making it look cool too. Making it look cool too. Alright, I got that flattened out quite a bit. Now what I want to do is bring these two ends, one over that way and one over going towards themselves. And they'll have a little curl on it. That's just to give you something to hold, a hold on your striker, as well as a little bit of decoration. Probably gonna end up using a pair of needle nose pliers on this a little bit because it's so small to get that little rat tail detail. Now with this, these sides don't have to be perfectly even. Mine aren't going to be. I'll end up tweaking it a little bit as I go along. But like I said, if you're doing this at home, you don't have to make it super decorative. It's pretty simple to make a functional flint and steel striker. I had that first curl a little bigger than I wanted it, so I gotta kind of move it back out and then rebend it. I just want to turn these ends up just a little bit. Literally, all you got to do is just bend them up slightly with your needle nose pliers. You can do this prior on the anvil, but it's really about all, it doesn't really matter. It's all about how you want to do it. Now, like we talked about with the knife, the smaller the metal you have, the faster it's going to want to cool down when you touch tools to it or the anvil or anything. So for some things, you got to work kind of quick. You'll notice I only got to do one of those fully over before I got to put it back in the forge because it's cooled down to the point. If I try and bend it right now, it's probably going to, it has the potential to snap off. Just about got it to the form I want. We'll clean up that face just a little bit, then we'll go to the quench. isn't very big. I don't make really big strikers simply because most of the time, you'll see in a minute where I keep my flint and steel striker and other things like that, I keep them in these little tins. So I like them to be a little bit small so that they fit in there. They don't need to take up a whole lot of room. It's a little chilly out. This forge actually feels pretty nice today. Alright, give this thing a last few hits. What I'm doing, I'm just making sure that it's nice and true and straight this way, that's all. I'm not really deforming the metal hardly at all. I just want those two ends to kind of meet up, giving it the last few little hits just so that everything's even. And there's your form. Like I said, it's really not a difficult project to do at home if you got a forge set up. It's a great beginner project for people, and as well, it's an awesome thing to have with your camping kit if you don't have one. It's a great skill to practice as well. Alright, now what we need to do is we need to harden the metal. We're going to do that with a quench, but with water. When I say quench, I'm going to plunge it into water. I'm going to try and just get the front surface quenched, because I don't necessarily need to quench the entire thing, but really only the striking surface needs to be quenched. Because if I quench the whole thing, you do run the risk of it being a little bit too brittle and it can break, but that just happens sometimes. Not all garage door springs the same. We've had a lot of success with this stuff, but you know, it really all depends on the piece sometimes. So we're going to do our best to keep it from breaking. Like I said, I just wanted to quench kind of this part right here. These pieces right here are still really hot, so I'm going to let them cool down on the anvil so I can manipulate it, because we're still not done with the process of actually making this striker. After this, what we need to do is clean that face up. Now you can do that with a file. Now, if you're real quick about it and don't overheat the face, you can do it on a belt sander, which is what I'm going to do. You just got to clean all that scale off there so that your striking surface works well with your flint. For those of you who weren't with us last time, here's the knife that we did in here. It still needs a little bit of polishing, but it's gone through its heat treat and it's gone through its tempering. At the end of the video last time, I had put it in the heat treat oven that heated it up to around 450, 470 or so, and then it sat at an hour for that and then slowly cooled down. But hopefully it's going to be a really great knife. There'll definitely be a video coming up. It might not be a live video, but putting a handle on this so you guys can see how to finish out the process of that. So we're going to give this just a few more minutes to kind of cool down so that I can handle it, grind it up, and then we'll head on over to one of the pavilions under there and I can show you guys how to use this tool. well cooled down. It's still got a little bit of warmth to it. But like I said, this thing is not very big. You can see it just fits my 2 fingers in it like that. They don't have to be really big. I like to make them pretty small. So I'm going to move you guys, go over to the grinder real quick, clean this up real fast. Alright, well, if I did everything right, hopefully it should create some sparks. We shall see. Now I'll go over this again, but it's really important also sometimes to make sure that you hold your flint and steel properly. You don't want to get all your knuckles real close like this. That's how you skin a knuckle, okay? So what I always do is I'll actually have 2 or 3 fingers in there, and then those right there I use to put a little bit of pressure with my thumb and my right ring finger. That way you can see it keeps my knuckles away from it. Then by hitting the edge, we got some sparks! Woohoo! Awesome! Well, that makes me happy. Let me get this forge shut off. We'll take a walk, and we'll go over there and show you guys how to make a flint and steel fire, which is, I love doing. That's a ton of fun. Alrighty. I wish I had interlude music for you guys, but every time I try and do a Facebook Live video with music, it tells me I don't have a license to that music and it turns the video off. So we'll have to deal with silence for a minute. Okay, grab striker. I have some flint over there, but I'm going to bring this piece over anyway. And you guys just get to walk with me. Yay! It might not be sunset, but it's still a pretty view. Everything's starting to green up real nice. For those of you who haven't been here to camp, this is our Invention lab. We'll get some videos done in there. That's where our 3D printers are, laser engraver, all kinds of fun stuff. There's the Invention trailer with, again, 3D printer, laser engraver, all kinds of fun stuff. And our wood shop. Which actually, before we do the fire, we're going to run in there real quick and show you guys a project that we've been working on here at camp. We'll do some videos in there of using the shop bot and stuff, but working on a sign right now for up by the Welcome Center. The shop bot is a handy dandy tool for that. This is our Lake of the Ozark Scout Reservation nickel or sign. It's going to go up above our Welcome Center sign that's out when you come down the hill into camp. So it'll need to be painted and sealed and everything, but the shop bot did this today. Fun, fun tool. Okay, let's get to fire. I like fire, clearly. Make sure everything is secure. Okay. We're going to go over here into Lewis campsite. See how green everything's getting? I actually found a couple morels the other day. They were small ones. Hopefully soon we'll get the big morels coming up. That'll make me happy. I love morel hunting. Here's our little setup. Sorry, I gotta shorten the legs on this tripod so that you guys aren't looking at me from above. Ta-da! Okay. Yeah, that'll work. Now, if I can give you guys any piece of advice on flint and steel fire making, it's preparation. Preparation is always going to be one of your most important things. I knew it was going to probably rain today, so I went ahead and collected some cedar bark yesterday while it was dry. Now, I didn't use a knife for this. I just kind of rubbed with my hand and pulled the loose bark that was on the cedar tree. You don't want to necessarily use a knife. You can cut down to the cambium, into the cambium layer. You can hurt the tree. But most cedar trees have plenty that's kind of sloughing off that you can use. In a pinch, you can actually, if it's wet when you gather it, you can actually heat this stuff up on low in your oven. That's what I did with some of the stuff that I keep in my camping kit. I just put my oven on low, put it on a tray just to get all the moisture out of it. When I talk about preparation, be prepared. This is great stuff to have with your camping gear in your troop trailer or whatever, or even in your own camping bag. Because if you can have dry cedar bark and some dry twigs, you can probably get most stuff and most wet wood going. So remember, preparation is very key for this. Now, the way I always do it is I like to get all my stuff kind of organized. Normally I'd have this all broken up to a specific size, but it's really not a big deal. The big key is to have your real small stuff ready to go. Now this is all the small itty bitty twigs from the cedar tree outside my house here at camp. So some are a little bit bigger. I'm actually going to separate those out because those will be after the flame starts a little bit more. But remember, preparation, preparation, preparation. Because once you get your flame going, you don't want to waste anything or what you have because you weren't prepared and didn't have the proper size sticks and everything ready to go. So now, what I always like to use is either 2 separate logs or 1 log like this that I can lean everything up against. Today, I'm just going to show you this method right here with it leaning. It's really not a big deal what you use. It can be beneficial to have a log like this and another one and have kind of a trough that you blow into. But this method works just fine, I assure you. So, I got this cedar bark. I'm not going to use this, but when I was talking about little tins, that's all you need. That can go in your backpack, whatever. That's just dried cedar bark that I put into this little metal waterproof tin. And then I can throw that and my flint and steel kit in my bag, and boom, I got fire making stuff right there in case a lighter gets wet or something. So first, with the cedar bark, we want to get this kind of prepared. Now when I say prepared, I mean kind of ground up a little bit, okay? You can see the dust coming off this a little bit, because this stuff, it was nice and sunny when I got this stuff. Is you don't want to just use it like that. You want to break this up and really get as much of those small fibers exposed as possible. You're going to see a lot of dust coming off of it, that's okay. But you want to just kind of create this nice bird's nest, as all the people who do this call it. Yeah, there we go. Nice and ground up. Okay. Now this is your bird's nest right here. You're going to have a little hole in it. That's where you're going to set your char cloth when it's on fire. Now for those of you who don't know what char cloth is, you basically make it. I make mine out of either cotton canvas or whatever 100% cotton I have laying around. The way you do it is actually pretty cool. So this that I carry my flint and steel kit in is actually my char cloth making tin. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little bit of wax right here that I've sealed because there's a hole in this tin. Now when I make char cloth, I poke that out and get that wax out of there, and you put your canvas, cotton, remember cotton, in here, kind of all folded up, close it up, and you can either use a fire or a backpacking stove. I find a small backpacking stove works really well because you can really control your heat on your can. But the big thing is you want it just to smoke and keep smoking and smoking and smoking out of that hole. And you don't want that hole to catch fire, because if the fire kind of jumps into the can, you can light your char cloth on fire, ruin it. That's why I like using a backpacking stove, because you can really control it. And pretty much once it's done smoking, you've basically created cloth charcoal. It's the same thing. It catches a flame easy, and it holds that heat and holds that flame real easy. Now you notice I'm still wearing my safety glasses. Whenever you're working with flint knapping, flint and steel fire making, it's always good to protect your eyes. Little pieces of flint can come off and get you in the eye, and that's going to make for a very, very bad day. So always protect your eyes, guys. Okay, so we got our char cloth here. I like to keep mine in a baggie just because it protects it from moisture a little bit better, even though that can is pretty waterproof. Got our piece of flint. Now chert will work, but if you can get good flint, man, that's the best, with a nice sharp edge on one side, because that's what catches and pulls those pieces of steel off. Now I am going to have this extra cedar bark here so I can use it kind of as like my fine tinder. So I have my bird's nest to catch the initial flame, a little bit thicker but fine tinder to keep that flame going, then my small cedar twigs to catch that flame and get going, a little bit bigger cedar twigs because cedar catches so nice, and then I have these that as the fire is burning I can start to add to it and build up my fire. Now I'm going to move this plastic away from me so a flame doesn't catch that and catch anything on fire. And we'll get going. So it's important to remember, a lot of people, you'll see them like lay it down in there like that and try and do that. That's not the best idea. It's hard sometimes for those little bits of spark to go down. So I always just put it on top. Now, like I said before, the way you hold it's important. You hold it like this and you miss. This stuff's razor sharp when it's broken off, man. It'll shave a piece of your knuckle off. So it's real important to hold it away from your knuckles like that. Get your char cloth on top, and it catches. You see that starting to glow. Now I'm going to grab a little bit of extra cloth because I have a surplus. Put that down in my bird's nest. Now when you're blowing, especially once it gets to the ground, because it won't be able to talk as much, you always want to turn your head away to breathe, because if you try and suck in air while your head's down there, you're going to breathe in a bunch of smoke. It's not going to be fun. You don't have to blow super hard either. You can start breaking up twigs, put them on. Always remember too, after you're started your char cloth, don't ever leave your striker or your flint right next to the fire. I cannot tell you how many times over the years I had to dig a striker out of a fire, because that happens. So remember, move everything to the side afterwards. Yeah! It's got a nice little chilly out. It's nice to have a fire. Okay, so to reiterate some points of this part of the demonstration, remember, preparation is super, super key, guys. If you don't have everything prepared and ready to go, you're going to get something going, and you're not going to have anything around you to start it up with. So it's good to have plenty of wood ready, especially small stuff ready to go. Now, say you're actually camping, it's good to have, a ton of wood, gather it in the daylight and everything. But the small stuff, that's always going to be key. That's always going to be your biggest priority before you get it going. Because right now, yeah, it's flaming and everything, but if I let it go for a little too long without adding anything to it, it will go out. And so you definitely want to make sure you keep tending to it. So preparation first. I recommend cedar bark. There's lots of other tinders you can use. I prefer cedar bark, dried cedar bark, just because, man, it works. It's a very consistent fire tinder. And then those little twigs, almost every cedar tree, you're going to have dead branches. And those little tiny twigs, they are the absolute best for getting things going. Then, with your char cloth, remember, char cloth on top of your piece of flint, not below it, because as those sparks fly up, it's going to catch again. Now, in a second, I'll do a demo right in front of the camera so you can kind of see that a little bit better, how that flint's going to go. And you can watch how that starts. So let me throw a couple more pieces on this, just because it's nice. I like fire. It's nice to sit by the fire. Okay, so flint, char cloth, you can see there's not much to it. Steel. Get it on the edge there. You have a nice sharp edge. Make sure to keep your knuckles away so as you're striking, you're not going to hurt yourself. And usually, if it's good char cloth, you'll know because it's going to start right away. You can see how that burns. You can't put this out. Okay, you can stomp on it. Sometimes it'll start again unless you stomp on it on wet ground. Ooh, that fire's blowing towards the camera a little bit. I'm gonna move that back. See what I mean? I didn't add stuff to that for a minute. It's already burnt down to coals. That little stuff burns real fast. So, I believe in repetition. So, last time to reiterate, preparation. Keep your char cloth dry. Watch out for your knuckles. When you're sucking in air, blow this way, suck from away from the fire. Otherwise, you're going to suck in a big old mouthful of hot smoke. It's not going to be fun. If you guys have any questions for me, especially how to make these are real simple to make these flint and steel cases. It's just a hole in it with some wax to seal it up. Feel free, post them in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys. Furthermore, if you guys have any ideas for stuff that we can video down here, please let us know. I know we're always looking for cool ideas. Hopefully here soon we'll be doing some of the Invention Lab, laser engraver, shop-bot stuff like that. But thanks for joining. Hope you guys enjoyed. Yeah, please let me know what you think. Let me know any questions, and I'll get to them as soon as possible. I'm gonna get this stuff cleaned up. Get this fire put out here in a few. But I hope you guys have a really good Friday night, and I hope to see you all soon. Take care. Oh, I wish I had some cool ending music with credits, but no, because I don't know how to do that. Fire is good. That's pretty. All right. Have a good night, guys. From Lake of the Ozarks Scout Reservation and Great Rivers Council, have a fun and safe weekend. Good night.